much, no boundaries, no rules. I used to believe that was just a saying, something people told themselves to feel better about their choices. But now, I know better. I never thought my life, at 75, could take such a turn. A turn so profound it would leave me questioning everything I thought I understood about myself, about love, and about what it means to truly live. And it all started the day he walked into my world. My days had settled into a peaceful routine, quiet walks, tea on the porch, and evenings, with my favorite novels. It was a life of contentment, but it lacked the thrill and warmth I once knew. That was until Kelvin moved into the cottage at the end of my street. A 32-year-old man with a charm that caught me off guard and a presence that awakened something in me I thought was long gone. It started innocently enough, a polite nod at the mailbox, a casual conversation during my morning walks. But soon, I found myself looking forward to seeing him, feeling a spark I hadn't felt in decades. Kelvin had this way of making even the simplest moments feel special. He'd ask about my garden, share stories of his travels, and laugh in a way that lit up the quiet corners of my life. Those moments with him became the highlight of my days, and before I knew it, a bond began to form, one that felt as natural as the sunrise but carried an intensity one couldn't ignore. Kelvin had a way of making me feel alive, as though he could see beyond the years and wrinkles to something that time hadn't touched. It was strange, this feeling of being seen so clearly, and even stranger still was the warmth that began to bloom inside me when he was near. It wasn't just his smile or the way he listened so intently, it was the way he made everything feel light, as though we were two souls, not bound by age or expectations, but simply enjoying each other's company. One afternoon, as I struggled with the weeds in my garden, he appeared at my gate with a friendly grin and a gardening tool in hand. "Let me help you with that," he offered, and before I could protest, he was already kneeling beside me, his hands working deftly through the earth. His touch was gentle, his presence soothing, and I found myself grateful for the help, and yet, there was something more. As we worked side by side, we exchanged stories about our lives, our pasts, our dreams. I told him about the house I'd raised my children in, the memories of my late husband, and the quiet years that followed. He shared tales of his travels, of the people he had met, and the adventures he had experienced. We laughed together, our voices mixing in the warm afternoon air, and for the first time in a long while, I felt as though I wasn't just an old woman passing through life, I felt like I mattered. As the weeks passed, our time together grew longer, and the connection between us deepened. It wasn't just the shared moments of laughter or the stories we swapped, it was the way he made me feel, like I was still capable of experiencing joy, still capable of feeling something other than the quiet solitude that had defined my days. His presence became a part of my routine, something I began to look forward to with a sense of anticipation. But as much as I cherished these moments, there was a part of me that couldn't ignore the growing tension inside. I knew the world would never understand this bond we shared. What would they say about a woman my age, spending time with a man so much younger? Was I just fooling myself? These thoughts plagued me, especially when I caught myself looking at him in a way I hadn't looked at anyone in years. It wasn't just friendship anymore. It was something deeper, something I wasn't ready to face. But despite my inner conflict, despite the voice of reason urging me to step back, I couldn't resist him. I couldn't resist the way he made me feel seen, cherished, and alive. One crisp autumn evening, the air was cool and the leaves crunched beneath our feet as we walked along the path in my garden. The sky above was painted with hues of orange and pink, the sunset casting a soft glow over everything. We were silent for a moment, simply enjoying the peacefulness of the evening, when I felt him draw closer. My heart skipped a beat, unsure of what was happening, but knowing something was shifting between us. Kelvin stopped walking and turned to face me. His eyes were dark with emotion, and there was a vulnerability in his gaze that I hadn't seen before. He hesitated for a moment, then, almost in a whisper, he said, "I can't get you out of my mind." His voice was shaky, uncertain, and for a moment, I thought I might be dreaming. Was this really happening? Before I could find the words to respond, he reached out, gently cupping my face with his hand. His touch was warm, his fingers brushing lightly against my skin, and in that instant, all the doubts and fears that had clouded my mind seemed to vanish. It was as if time itself had stopped, leaving only the two of us in that moment. Then, his lips brushed against mine, tentative at first, as if he, too, was unsure of what was happening. But the kiss deepened quickly, and the years, the distance between us, and all the reasons why we shouldn't be here seemed to melt away. It wasn't just a kiss, it was the culmination of everything we had shared, everything we had become. In that moment, I was no longer the woman I had been before, and he was no longer just a young man next door. We were something else, something that neither of us could explain, but both of us could feel. When we finally pulled away, neither of us spoke for a long while. The silence was filled with the weight of what had just happened, and yet, it felt like a new beginning. I knew that things had changed between us, that this wasn't just friendship anymore. It was something deeper, something we would have to navigate carefully, because the world outside wouldn't understand. But in that moment, as I looked into his eyes, I knew we had crossed a line, and there was no going back. We became each other's secret, meeting whenever we could. Our moments together were stolen, fleeting, but they were ours. Every touch, every glance, every whisper shared between us felt like a spark igniting a fire that neither of us could put out. The intensity of our connection was undeniable. Edward's presence in my life was like a breath of fresh air, a rush of warmth that made me feel alive in ways I hadn't known in years. We'd steal time together in the garden, laughing over trivial things, sharing stories that only the two of us would ever know. It was in those quiet moments that I felt the depth of what we had. His hand brushing against mine, the way his eyes would linger on me just a second too long, it was intoxicating. But there was always a sense of urgency in the air, as if we both knew that what we were doing was wrong, that we were treading dangerous ground. Each kiss, each stolen moment, came with a sense of exhilaration, but also an undercurrent of guilt. I would lie awake at night, my heart racing as I thought about the risk we were taking. What if someone found out? What if our secret was exposed? The fear of discovery loomed over us, a constant reminder that the world outside would never understand. The age gap, the judgments, the consequences, everything felt like a storm waiting to break, and yet, I couldn't stop. I couldn't pull away from him, no matter how much I knew we were risking. The thrill of being together, the intimacy we shared, was unlike anything I had ever known. It was as if, for those stolen moments, the rest of the world didn't matter. It was just us, and that connection was worth everything. But deep down, I knew this couldn't last forever. The weight of the secret we carried was growing heavier with each passing day. I had to wonder, how long could we keep pretending? How long could we keep hiding from the truth, from the consequences of our actions? But in that moment, all I could think about was him, and the way he made me feel, alive, cherished, and, for the first time in a long while, truly seen. Kelvin came to me one evening, his eyes filled with worry. "Catherine knows something's changed," he said, and my heart sank. The weight of his words hit me like a wave, crashing over everything we had built. I could see the guilt in his eyes, the way his hands trembled as he spoke. It wasn't just Catherine's suspicions that were weighing on him, it was the realization that this couldn't go on forever. I knew it too. As much as I wanted to hold on to this feeling, to keep the secret alive, I could feel the walls closing in. Every moment we spent together felt like it was taking us one step closer to the inevitable fallout. Catherine's sharp eyes, the way she looked at us both, the subtle questions she asked, she was beginning to piece things together. I could see it in Edward's face, he was terrified of what would happen if she found out, and rightfully so. But it wasn't just Catherine that I feared. It was the consequences of what we were doing. Every time I looked at Kelvin, I felt the weight of the years between us, the judgments that would come if anyone discovered our love. The world would never understand, and neither would my own conscience. The guilt was eating away at me. I had lived a lifetime of propriety, of doing what was expected. And now, here I was, tangled in a love that defied everything I had ever known. Kelvin's voice broke through my thoughts. "I don't know how much longer I can keep this from her, Ellen. I don't want to hurt her, but I can't keep pretending that I don't feel this way about you." His words hung in the air, heavy and filled with uncertainty. And for the first time I saw it, his love for me, his commitment to what we shared, was battling with the guilt of what we were doing. In that moment, I realized something that I had been avoiding all along: our love, as beautiful and intoxicating as it was, couldn't last forever. The consequences were inevitable. The world, our lives, our families, everything would change if this secret came to light. I didn't know how much longer we could keep running from the truth. "I'd give up everything for you," Kelvin said, his voice filled with desperation, his hands trembling as he reached for mine. I could see the raw emotion in his eyes, the pain of knowing that our love was slipping through his fingers. He was willing to sacrifice it all, his life, his future, even Catherine, just to be with me. But as much as I wanted to believe in that moment, I knew the cost was too high for him, for me, for Catherine. There was too much at stake. I could feel the weight of the years between us, the judgments that would come, the lives that would be shattered. The love we shared was beautiful, but it was built on a foundation that could never withstand the truth. With tears in my eyes, I whispered, "We were living on borrowed time, Kelvin. It's time to let go." The words felt like a knife to my heart, but I knew they were the only choice I had left. I couldn't keep him, not without destroying everything he held dear. And I couldn't bear the thought of watching him lose everything just for me. His face crumpled in pain, and for a moment, it felt like the world had stopped. But in that silence, I knew it was the right decision. As much as I loved him, as much as I wanted to keep him in my life, I had to let him go. "I'll always love you, Ellen," he whispered, his voice breaking. And with that, he turned away, leaving me standing there, alone with the pieces of my heart scattered on the floor. Though our love was brief, it was a gift. A reminder that even at 75, life can surprise you with something beautiful and profound. I often find myself sitting on the porch, sipping my tea, and smiling at the memories we created. Our moments together may have been fleeting, but they were real. They were something I will carry with me, not as a regret, but as a cherished chapter of my story. Life has a way of teaching us that love doesn't always come in the form we expect, and sometimes, the most unexpected connections can leave the deepest marks. I'll never forget Kelvin, or the way he made me feel alive again. It was a love that transcended age, time, and circumstance, and though it's gone, it's left a piece of itself in my heart forever. And as I move forward, I know I'll always carry that love with me, not as something lost, but as something beautiful that once was. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Secrets and Scandals for more captivating tales of love,